It was
Before you say anything, I just really want to apologize for the event that should not be named. The bachelorette party from hell. I got caught up. That's selfish. Just
It's fine. I saw someone playing piano. Luke stopped by a car scene.
You look familiar. Have we met?
What?
Then ask. Complicated, before that Lieutenant shade nonsense. So we can go back to normal. Why is there no evidence on it? Because I wouldn't be the carefree road of your opinion.
Not evidence, just priceless historical artifacts. Okay, this baby right here is from the World Series. Everyone remembers Gibson somewhere. The clay, pitched a shuttering game shoe that was like, boom! Take that, bitches. Hey, do you not know who Forrest King plays?
No idea.
Cy Young Award. World Series MVP.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to all of our early birds. We'll be starting the session at 12 o'clock. Unfortunately, due to technical issues earlier on, we weren't able to start at 11, so we rescheduled till 12, and we will be kicking off at 12 o'clock. In the meantime, we would love to ask for your feedback and to engage with us using Mentee polling. You're in the right place. We're talking rands, romance, and reality. And we've got a little Mentee polling going up asking you, it's Valentine's Day. How are you feeling today? Some of you are feeling healthy, normal, good, excellent. So some positive words coming up, which is awesome. We'll be kicking off in about 6 minutes. You're very welcome and looking forward to today's session.
Good morning, everybody on the call. Welcome and thank you for joining the call. It is 11:56. We are going to start at the top of the hour. We're going to start at 12 o'clock. We had to reschedule the 11 o'clock session. Seeing as that didn't take place, we thought let's start at 12. Thank you so much for still making time to join us. I would like to have your engagements and let us know how you're feeling today. We obviously started with a technical glitch, so it's been an interesting morning, but it would be nice to know. It is Valentine's Day. How are you feeling today? One of the ways in which you can engage with us is our Mentee link. The link is in the chat function. You just need to click on the link and you'll be able to answer the questions that are on your link. Additional to that, you are also quite welcome to use the chat function in order for you to let us know how you're feeling or share anything, thoughts, that you wanted to share today on this Valentine's Day. So please feel free to interact with us. We really, really appreciate that. And then if you do want to invite, colleagues or friends that can benefit from the session, just let them know there was a change in time because of technical issues, but we are going to start in 3 minutes. See you guys soon.
So a very warm welcome to today's session. We'll be kicking off in the next 2 minutes, as Maria has mentioned. In the meantime, you are in the right place. You can hear us, sound is working. We will be kicking off in the next 2 minutes. our Rands, romance and reality chat this morning about how to manage your Rands and how Rands impact our reality and how it impacts all relationships. So we're excited about you joining us. We'll be kicking off in a few minutes. In the meantime, please tell us, it's Valentine's Day. How are you feeling today? Right, it's the top of the hour. I can say good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to you today to our second try of today's topic talk, Rands, romance and reality. We're going to be talking about money. My name is Val Leeming, and I'm joined by Maria Magwaza. Good morning, Maria. Good afternoon, Maria.
I was going to say good morning, good afternoon. I'm not sure which one it is yet, but good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. If you just hopped on, you would have reached us on the other side of 12. But if you saw us on the other side of 12, it was good morning. Thank you for having us today. Yeah, been an interesting morning, Val, but we are here. And we are grateful that the group came back to sort of meet with us and have a conversation about Rands and romance and reality. And today, we're going to have a very, very interesting conversation about money matters. I will be your hostess, if I may call myself that. I'm going to be your financial hostess today, and I've got Val who's going to be facilitating for us. But as you know, we keep it interactive. We have a conversation as per usual. If you don't know us, I'm Maria Magwaza. She is Val Leeming, and we are going to be taking you through a conversation and just right on time. It's Valentine's Day, and we're going to be talking about money and love and relationships and love and money, whichever way you want to put it. So I'm going to just give over to Val to take us through some of this. Just a couple of house rules, if I may please ask. We are using Menti polling to just interact so that you can let us know how you're feeling, but still keep anonymous. There we go. So I was going to say, please just be cognizant of when you joined to actually have your mics off so that we don't hear your business, because we can hear all your business.
4 hours a day. And
there we go. So it's much better. Nati, if I could just please ask you to mute. I tried to mute everybody. I can't. Nati, thank you so much. So if you could just please be cognizant of the mic, just make sure it is off. And then also just another ask is the camera. If you could please just make sure that that is off so that we're not. There we go. I was muted.
Sorry, somebody muted you.
That's okay. Somebody muted me, but that's okay. So keep communicating on the chat function via Menti, and if you want to ask or share, go ahead and write in the chat function, and then we'll take it from there. Val, without further ado, I want to just give over to you. Have at it.
Thanks so much, Maria, and good afternoon, everybody, and happy V-Day, happy Valentine's Day. Hopefully by the end of this session, you're going to be feeling just a little bit more in love with your financial situation, because we will have spent some time thinking about it. And we all know that relationships, whether that's money relationships or relationships, require energy. It's almost like they need energy in order to breathe and flourish and grow. Just about today's topic talk, We will be sharing the slides with you, and we encourage you to reach out for assistance. If you are needing financial coaching, to please dial in to the Reality Wellness toll-free line. Maria is also going to be popping a little link if you're wanting a call back. And if you've got a problem with your personal finances, one of the financial coaches will then reach out to you. And as Maria mentioned, we're also going to be using mentee polling. We know that money matters are very confidential, and you might not feel necessarily that comfortable posting on the chat. So we're using mentee, but if you are comfortable, we welcome that. Just to ask everybody, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, just to confirm you can hear me. You can see my screen, and hopefully, thank you, Jabalani. Great. Iris, you can see me. Wonderful, because I saw Rena was noting there is no sound. So great. I'm so glad. So today we're going to talk about Rands, romance, and reality. And I wish I could start off with the romance, but the reality is times are very tough, and many people are finding themselves in a very difficult financial situation. So we're going to start off with some of the realities that we've sort of gone through and are going through from a financial perspective. And then we're going to take a look at our own relationship with money and the impact that money has on relationships. It could be your partner, your spouse, your significant other, but it also could be your relationships with your friends. It could be relationships with family members. It could be relationships with your children. It could be relationships with your siblings. So we're really going to take a look at that and then explore how can you actually improve your money situation. And one of the tips is to have money conversations, but also there's some really nice sort of things that you can do right now in order to start to cope financially more effectively this year. Just a reminder, reach out for help and assistance. The Reality Wellness Group is here to assist you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Maria, I'd also just like to ask you to please post that link so that people are able to engage both on Mentee and to access financial coaching. So if I was to ask you, what does your reality look like when it comes to your personal finances? How are you feeling financially? Maria, I know that you're into New Year's resolutions and all of that, but what does your financial reality look like at the moment? How are things going?
So things are going all right, Val. I think it's the beginning of the year. Clean slate, a new attitude. I've got things going on. So at the moment, I'm feeling, what's the word? Optimistic, because I'm still at the beginning and there are things that I need to get done. And I'm still quite happy about it because we're at the beginning of the year and it's not a lot of things that are overwhelming me as yet. So my word would be optimistic. Financially, okay. I'm feeling optimistic.
And somebody else in the chat is saying, I'm feeling like I'm managing my personal finances. And so often we go through our lives day in, day out. We work so hard in order to earn that income. Very often we don't sort of check in with ourselves. We might ask our colleagues, how are you feeling? But we never ask ourselves, how are we feeling financially? Where are we at? So a number of people are feeling optimistic, positive, comfortable. But then on the flip side, there are those negative keywords: stressed, sad, challenged, worried, and certainly as more people begin to sort of respond, you'll start to see exactly how people are feeling. And I guess, feelings just are, that feelings come and go, but it's vitally important that we sort of unpack, why are we feeling this way and what can we do about it? Those sort of three key questions in order to make progress. And at the moment, as you can see, sad, stressed, and worried seem to be the biggest words that are coming out. So if you are feeling those sort of pressure points, you are not alone. And that's my message. You're not alone, and help is at hand. So the truth is that financial stress is one of the top reasons for stress in our lives. And the reason why financial stress is a top trigger is very often because we take a look at the cost of living having gone up. We don't necessarily have savings in order to fall back on, and life happens, whether it's positive or negative, the birth of a new baby, marriage, death of a loved one, perhaps divorce, a change in your marital circumstances. All of those life stages have an impact on our money situation. And so sadly, financial stress is on the rise. And if you're feeling a negative emotion with regards to your personal finances, you're certainly not alone. One of the big triggers or reasons has been the fact that interest rates have gone up, up, and up. And over the last couple of years, just in 2023 alone, it went from 10.75% to 11.75%. And what does this really mean? Well, it means that many of us don't feel financially free or get to wealth point because we're being dragged down by that four-letter word debt. For every 100 Rand that an average South African earns, around about 74 Rand is being spent on debt. The other pressure points is the fact that the cost of living has increased. Things like groceries have increased, electricity, water, lights, and petrol. So all of that leads to us feeling perhaps not so comfortable financially. And so if you're feeling both positive or negative, I'd really like you to consider the question, well, how is money, or how are your finances having an impact on your life? So very often in financial coaching, we ask people, are your finances, are they impacting you? What areas of your life are they impacting you? Are they potentially impacting your ability to get to work? Because the average person, once again, spends 80% of our salaries within 5 days of earning it. So if you get paid on the 25th of the month, by the 30th of the month, we've spent 80% of our income. And so we literally are in that cycle of living payday to payday. So it could be impacting your happiness level. Abby says, it's impacting my happiness. I hear you with that. Perhaps it's impacting your relationships. Perhaps it's impacting your concentration. Perhaps it's impacting your sleep. It could be impacting you in a variety of ways. It might even be impacting your mental health. So I'd love you to just check in with us and really think about, how is money having an impact on you? So I'm going to let that mentee polling question sort of run for a little bit. But these are some of the common answers. 32% of people say that their money issues are impacting their relationships. 30% of people say they impact me physically. So actually my tummy, I start to get a tummy ache when I'm feeling financially stressed, or it's impacting my physical health. It's impacting my sleep. It's impacting my stress. In fact, even around 19% of people are saying it's impacting my ability to be productive at work, because I can't be productive at work because I'm worried about how I'm going to pay the bills on time. So this is just having a look at some of the feedback, both locally in South Africa and globally. So money has an impact on, I would say, nearly every aspect of our lives. It has an impact very often in terms of family support. Currently for every 100 Rand we earn, a large portion of that is being spent on family support. And very often the term that's used is black tax. I need to pay for X and Y. Whether you're feeling black tax or Rainbow Nation tax, or simply family support because you're supporting your elderly moms, siblings, as well as yourself and your direct family, that could be the pressure point. Or perhaps you're thinking to your financial future self and worried about how financially secure you'll be. But the reality is you're certainly not alone. And we work hard in order to earn a living. We spend more time with our colleagues than very often we do with our loved ones. So that just gives you an overall just how much time we spend to work. But the question is we're working to earn our living, right? But how much time do we invest in managing that relationship with money? How much time are we spending actively managing our personal finances? Now, when I've asked this question on a number of groups, the answer is normally, maybe 30 minutes a month, maybe an hour a month. So maybe think about, and if you're comfortable, pop a line in the chat function. How much time are you really spending on your relationship with money, on spending time managing money? And then that question of, well, is money impacting your relationships? So as I mentioned, to wrap up, how am I feeling about my money situation? Why am I feeling this way? And what can I do about it? So, for example, I might say, how am I feeling about my money situation? I'm feeling comfortable. Why am I feeling this way? Because I know that if there was going to be an emergency, I would have savings that I've saved, so emergencies don't freak me out, and I've got peace of mind, right? What can I do about it? I can make sure I don't use that in case of emergency fund, if, other than for an emergency, or I top up on it. How am I feeling about my money situation? I'm feeling really debt stressed. Why am I feeling this way? Well, I can't pay all my debt, and I keep on getting these warning letters and final demands and debt collectors calling me. What can I do about it? Okay, well, I attended this webinar and I can reach out to Reality Wellness for support and assistance. So those are just sort of those 3 questions in a nutshell, how powerful they are. So relationships about money can be really complicated. And here are a couple of just sort of little snippets. Maria, from your perspective, what type of, how is it that you've seen how complex and complicated relationships about money can be?
Very, very much so, Val. It could be little things as small as, I'm going out on a date. Are we still doing the 50-50 because I'm an independent woman? Or as far as, it's so awkward. I buy things and I hide them in the boot of my car. My husband doesn't know. But one of the scariest ones for me, Val, is that people will be in long-term relationships, live with each other, be married to each other, and not even know about each other's earnings, and people say, I just give my partner privacy, and I'm all for privacy. But, there are certain things for me that feel like, well, how do you split responsibility if we don't even want to talk about how much are you making? Who brings home the bacon? What are we doing with the bacon? Just those common things. But as small as who pays for the date. And today's Valentine's Day, so it's one of those big deal dates where people are like, who's doing what? And are you paying? Is it too much? Is it? So it's very, very interesting.
Absolutely. So it definitely is very, very, very complicated. I mean,
Yeah.
When do you even start to bring up the conversation about money? Or, it's Valentine's, so you don't want to say, well, who's paying for dinner? Because that's not very romantic, but you also don't want to be left with the bill. And at what point, if you're just starting a relationship, you don't want to bring it up too quickly, because you don't want to frighten the other person off. But then sometimes you can go years in a relationship and still not have had that sort of connection. Yeah. So very simple polling question, does money complicate relationships? So Maria, you've spoken about relationships with a partner or a spouse, but what about friendships? Can money complicate friendship relationships?
I think so. I think, money can go over into every kind of relationship, parent, sibling, friendships, colleague relationships. And what I always say to people is, if you can help it, don't mix it, don't mix those lines, because then you are trying to help, the intention is good, and the person who's also maybe asking for help doesn't have malicious intent, but then life happens, and then there's expectation from my side and my friend's side, and the lines are just blurred and we can never go back to the same place. So Val, yes, simple as possible, money will affect all kinds of relationships, so just be very, very alert and be careful. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And I see that the audience definitely agrees with you, Maria.
Yeah.
85% of people saying, yeah, it does. Some people say no. I can honestly say money doesn't complicate all my relationships, but it does complicate some of my relationships. Somebody is 14% of people are saying sometimes, and 7% saying no. So it doesn't have to complicate all relationships.
Yeah.
So, if majority of the people on the call are saying that money is impacting relationships, let's start with our own relationships around money, because sometimes we've got to sort of unpack that. So, Maria, in terms of your relationship with money, when would you say your relationship with money first started?
You may know the story, but everybody else on the call doesn't. Two things. I'll tell you my story, but I want to just observe what Tisha is saying on the chat. She's saying absolutely money can affect relationships, but we can set clear boundaries. And I was wondering, those of you who are saying no, money doesn't affect your relationships, is it because you've set clear boundaries? Maybe, maybe not, but just think about it. So Val, my first run-in with, well, the one that I can remember with money would be, I think I was in primary school. I don't remember what age. And I used to go to school with transport. So my mom gave me money to hand over to the driver because they used to pay monthly. And I opened the envelope that day, and I think my transport was like 120 a month. Those were the days, because 120 now. So it was like 120 a month, and I opened it, and my little brain exploded. I had never seen so much money. So in my head, I thought, this is great. I'm going to spend some of it, and then I'll have enough to relocate and sort of start a new life, because my mom is going to smack me for spending some of it. So I thought, this is enough. I'm rich. And then I did that. It didn't end well for me. But the reason why that story still stays with me is because even in adulthood, I think I've hit those phases where I thought, geez, what's a lot of money? And that made me pay attention to how money actually makes me react. So yeah, you guys know that story didn't end well. I don't need to finish it. But that's one of my favorite money memories, and the fact that I can still kind of relate to it to this day.
Absolutely. And those money memories are incredibly powerful. Nomvuti says, money's just money. The love of money is the problem. Absolutely. I hear you in terms of that. And what we say, about our relationship with money very often impacts the things that we're telling ourselves about money. So, for example, if you grew up in a family where money was often a cause of strife, a family perhaps that was burdened by financial worries, you might be reacting in a situation right now where you are afraid to spend money or afraid to invest, because you're thinking, I'm scared, what if I need that? But on the other hand, if you grew up in an environment where you never had to worry about money, and all of a sudden you think, I've never had to worry about money, and you're faced with a financial crisis, then you don't necessarily feel like you've got the skills and ability. Or perhaps you grew up in a family with not a lot of money, and now that you're earning a salary, you're overcompensating. You're feeling that sense of, I feel rich, I can spoil people, I can do this, and I love spending money on others. So very often we think when it comes to our relationship with money, we should have a head relationship, but we don't. We have this emotional relationship with money. So that is very often when we talk about this emotional relationship with money, it's defined as your money personality. Your money personality is simply your response to any money situation on an ongoing basis. So it's not just how you respond once, but how you normally respond to money situations. So let me give you an example of a money situation. Let's say you and your girlfriends go out to celebrate Valentine's and the bill arrives at the end of the evening. How are you going to respond to that money situation? So Maria, let's say you weren't going out on a date night with your husband. How would you respond in that situation?
So I think maybe splitting the bill equally. I think so. It is quite interesting to have that conversation about what happens with the bill, because I think the personality comes out. But Val, do you think maybe the person that is across from the table from you has an effect on the decision? Because like you're saying, what if it's my husband?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The person sitting, whoever you're with, definitely has an impact. But if we're saying in general, you're going out with your girlfriends, you would in general say we'd split the bill equally. And perhaps, Lungelo says we, as men, we're expected to pay the bill. Okay, so Maria's saying that's great. I hear where you're coming from, Lungelo, and I often say to women, a man is not a financial plan, and that it's actually very empowering to feel like you are able to take care of yourself financially. So there are a lot of cultural impacts to the decision making. But some of you might say, okay, it depends on who's got money, or we're not going to split the bill. My daughter, whenever she goes out with her friends, they use this app, Splitwise, and they're able to sort of calculate who paid. So one person will pay, but then it calculates what everybody else earns. Another friend group of mine, they always bring out the calculator and who had what, because I'm not paying for this one. So different situations respond differently. I just want you to think about what's your natural response to that situation. And if you're whipping out the card and saying, I'll get it, it's my treat, and you're doing that consistently, then chances are you've got the spending money personality. Perhaps if you are the one who hates it when the bill arrives and inevitably goes to the bathroom, perhaps you're that ostrich money personality. Or if you're the one who whips out their calculator, the accountant money personality. And I think you can really, really, really start to see where we're going with this. So your relationship, vitally, vitally important, right? But also, if you are in a relationship and you've got a different money personality to your partner or spouse or significant other, that can potentially also cause conflict. So, for example, if I'm the big spender and I'm always the one wanting to pay the bill, and my husband is, let's say, what I call the dinosaur money personality, and dinosaurs or T-Rexes, they've got short arms and they can't sort of touch their pockets. You know what I'm getting at? I'm sure you do. If he's got that money personality, then potentially it could cause conflict, right? So what is your money personality? What is your partner's money personality? And how has your backstory with money impacted your current money situation and your current money beliefs and the way in which you manage money? Let's take a listen to this short video, and I'd just like to ask you, please, to give me a thumbs up if you can hear this. So give me a thumbs up.
You know how your partner likes their coffee, what love language they speak, and even their medical history. But how much do you know about their finances? Chances are, you and your better half are among the 78% of people who would rather share their full dating history and all of that drama and all of that baggage that comes along with it, rather than to disclose your full financial history. And yet, research shows that your significant other has a large influence on a whole host of your behaviors. Understanding how they handle money is a great way to prevent strife and misunderstandings. In fact, financial disagreements rank as the strongest predictor of divorce. So my tip here is that if you want to strengthen your relationship, it's time to talk about the money. You might be thinking, my partner and I don't need to talk. My partner takes care of the money, or vice versa. But a 2018 study of heterosexual couples showed that in these situations, the partner who takes on all of the responsibility, the one who manages all of the financial tasks, they become more and more proficient in financial management over time. But the other person, the person who has given up all of their financial responsibilities, their financial management capabilities decline over time. And what if something happens? Maybe you break up, maybe it doesn't work out, or God forbid, maybe your spouse dies too early. If the person who wasn't responsible for the money management ends up on their own, that person oftentimes struggles to regain their financial skills, making it more and more difficult for them to navigate the world alone. And 75% of the time, it's the women who outlive the men. For the partner who hasn't taken on the money management role, it's like for
So we're going to leave it there. I am so glad that we've sorted out all the technical difficulties and everybody heard. And I guess it's important to simply ask yourself, are you and your partner on that same page financially? And if you aren't on the same page, or if one of you manages money the whole time for the other partner and it works for your relationship, that's great. I'm not saying you have to change it. But what if something was to happen to that loved one? It's like sort of the fact that they will then not feel empowered to make certain decisions. And we'll definitely send you that link so that you can really take a look at it and look at it more effectively. But I'm sure you would agree with me that we live in this digital age. So gone are the days of like having to wait for something. We want something, we want it now. If you're enjoying watching a series, you can binge watch the series. You don't have to wait for the next sort of episode to come out. We expect immediate gratification. You're hungry, click of a button, order Uber Eats, and the next thing you know, you've got that McDonald's burger, for example. Online shopping, immediate gratification. If we think about even online dating, it's immediate gratification. So behaviors around money have also become more extreme than they were 10 years ago. So the reality is yes, we have to acknowledge that money can cause disagreements. It doesn't always cause disagreements. It can cause fundamental problems. And very often it's due to the different attitudes that we have or that we bring into the relationship. So I thought I would tell you this little story about Sam. And obviously financial coaching is 100% confidential. So I've changed his name. So vitally important just to reiterate that point. And I am going to ask Maria just to pop that sort of link on the chat function for anybody who does need to reach out to the Reality Wellness Program for financial coaching and support. Let me tell you the story about Sam. So Sam was actually referred to me by his manager. He was a senior manager at a company and he was in charge of sales. And the senior manager said, look, I'm really concerned about Sam's performance. He seems very distracted at the moment and his performance has dropped. And he shared with me that he's feeling quite a lot of money worries and stress. So I had a meeting with Sam and we started to sort of take a look at where he was at in his financial life. And at the time, he was sort of in his late 40s, early 50s. He was married. Let's say he's married to Mary. And he, at that point, was really having this easy come, easy go relationship with money. He was very unaware of where his money was going. He was earning a good salary, but he constantly was getting into debt and seemed to be weighed down by lifestyle choices. And he shared with me that his wife, let's call her Mary, was an accountant and she was very good at managing money. And he felt like he could not face up to her that he had all this debt. And at the time, the debt was significant. I don't even think at the first meeting he was aware of how much debt he had. He was sort of this ostrich approach to money management. Once we had a look at all his debt, it was around about 400,000 rands worth of short-term debt. And Sam needed to acknowledge the problem. He needed to become aware of his own relationship with money. And then he had to get to a point where he could garner the support of his partner, and they needed to then get on the same page financially in order to move forward. Vitally, vitally important. Now, the problem wasn't solved with a magic wand or in a short period of time. It took most probably about 2 years, and most probably we had 6 months of intensive coaching, and then we checked in on a quarterly basis. But within 2 years, his short-term debt was cancelled, and they were starting to build for their financial future, and they were on the same page financially. So help is certainly at hand. So without a doubt, Sam was irresponsible in terms of his relationship with money. And the responsible person, because she wasn't working a full-time job as Sam was, it caused this discord in their relationship. So I would definitely say that if you are in a partnership or in a relationship where perhaps you're using a double source of income, it is vitally important to connect and perhaps even have a couple session to get on the same page. Some people also share that there are issues around control and money. And so sometimes it's about, you know, if one partner earns more than another partner, they feel like they've got more say in perhaps the family decisions or on where the funds are spent. And, you know, if that is not addressed, or if it's, or it can potentially lead even to, in very, very severe cases, something called economic abuse. So where do we start? Now that we've unpacked that money, definitely, Rands has an impact on romance and on relationship. That is vitally important. But where do we go from here? And before we take a look at the Every Person test, I'd like to just see whether there are any questions, Maria, that we should address.
Yes, please, Val. I have one that I said I promised you would address, and I wanted you to please answer it instead of me taking it onto the chat function, because I feel like maybe, you know, other people won't ask this, but there may be people in a similar boat. So the question is, what would you advise if, you know, you and your partner are on the same page, but his family has more demands and they demand this from him? Is it fair or unfair as his wife to refuse to include the family's expenses into the budget? Mind you, the family is asking for things like devices, you know, things that are basically secondary items, not necessarily necessities, that they probably should be getting for themselves. By the way, at the end of the sentence, it says, mind you, the family members also work. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky one. What do you think?
That
Val?
word complicated comes to mind.
Yeah, very.
So I would definitely say, you know, for you and your partner to have a discussion. And perhaps the discussion starts out around the lines of, you know, it's wonderful that you're so generous and that you want to support your family. How are you feeling about the fact that there seem to be a lot of requests for items? How do you feel about it? Do you feel that as a couple we can afford X, Y, and Z? Perhaps as a couple, have you worked out how much of your monthly income is being used to provide for that extended family member? What is the relationship like? What are the funds being used for? Is it for luxuries? And perhaps asking your partner or spouse why he is feeling that sense of financial responsibility to purchase those items for that family member. Why? You know, what is the reason that he's feeling that sense of responsibility? And it could be a host of things. It could be a sense of, well, they did X for me. I don't know what the relationship is, but a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, I owe them. You know, I feel like I owe them, or the reason I love them. But you don't have to use money to show that you love somebody. There are other things, and we're going to be talking about love languages in just a minute. But I would definitely say that if you, as the partner, are feeling like you are being taken advantage of, or you feeling like you don't feel like this is fair and you want to make some adjustments, you can't just say no. You've got to have the conversation and then really ask yourselves as a couple, do you need to set boundaries? What would happen if you said no to X or Y? And are you as a couple on the same page, especially if some of your funds are going to support on luxury items? I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
I see there's another question saying,
yes,
how do you start?
I wanted to bring your attention to it. It's quite similar. Are you talking to the one about from Tulile?
Yes.
Yes, it's quite similar, but in Tulile's case, it's saying, you know, what happens if I do try? How do I start the conversation if I have a partner who constantly gets, you know, upset about finances? And Tulile, Val will answer this for you, but it made me wonder, Val, sometimes how we enable people to sort of continue with behaviors, because in my mind, I just wondered what happens beyond the anger. Because usually if I'm approaching somebody who I know will get defensive, the minute they get defensive, I stop pushing also. So my thought went to, what if I continue pushing? What's on the other side of being defensive, you know? But I will let you answer that. Yeah, well, how does she start it with somebody who's just like standoffish and angry about it?
So I would definitely say start small.
Okay.
Use the I word, and find the right timing. So I'd love to know from Tulile, you know, at what point was she trying to bring up the money conversation? You know, if you do it at a time where the person is distracted or doing something else or watching their favorite show, or in the wrong environment, very often we then, so timing is everything. Start small and perhaps start with the words I. So I would feel so great if we were able to chat a little bit about our finances so that we are able to grow our financial lives together. So vitally important, say, you know, and start small. And we've got quite a lot of content, and we can send you some examples of those conversation starters. So even if you were to, you know, say maybe not today, it's Valentine's, but I attended a session on the importance of having money conversations and the benefits of it. I'd love us to have a conversation and to see how we can support one another and get on the same page financially. Definitely agree, you know, you can catch more bees with honey than vinegar. So you've got to start small and gently. And perhaps even starting with that question, what do you really want? So asking your partner or your spouse or yourself, what do you really want in your life? And I think the average person makes 35,000 decisions every single day. But these big questions, like what do we really want in our lives? What do we want for our children? Those big questions, very often we don't like to answer, or we don't spend enough time thinking about the answer. Now, this is called the every person test because it doesn't matter whether you ask men or women, young people, older people, people in South Africa, Australia, America, all around Africa, the world. People really want the same things. People want to feel secure in their relationships, financially secure. We want to be happy and we want to be healthy. Perhaps we don't always think about our health until we have a health scare, and then all of a sudden it becomes vitally important. But if the average person wants to be secure, happy, and healthy, perhaps building a sense of financial security in your own family unit and growing your money skills and having more regular money conversations, will it then lead to increased happiness and increased health? And the answer is absolutely yes. So if you were to ask your partner, what do you really want? And they say, well, I want to feel secure, or I want to feel happy, or I want to be healthy, or something along those lines, then you can say, well, I'm not feeling financially secure. Perhaps if we had that conversation, we would be able to get on the same page. Maria, let's take a quick look at some of the biggest mistakes that couples sort of sometimes make when it comes to their personal finances. Perhaps you can share some of this.
So yes, so I think the common blunders that we make is the money secrets. And people think if you say a money secret, it's like big and, you know, absolutely dramatic. It is not. They can start as little as, you know, the things that we do on the side, like maybe keeping a secret stash of money away from your partner, maybe shopping, and then, you know, I'm a little bit guilty of it. You know, I'll buy a dress and I'll say, oh, this old thing, and it's not old at all. I just bought it like 2 days ago and I hid it in the boot of my car. So it starts very small. It starts out to be innocent, but then you keep very big secrets, like I missed the payment on the bond. So you have to be able to be quite transparent with your partner with regards to money matters, because when the secret is out, then we break trust, which is a very, very big deal. So it doesn't matter how big or small the secret is. So don't keep financial secrets, right? Then the next blunder I think that we make, Val, is that we actually don't have an in case of an emergency fund. Now, this could go two ways, right? So if we don't have an in case of an emergency fund, and you find that, you know, you are always going to your partner to say, I have a problem, can you take care of it? And maybe they are more financially savvy than you, and they take care of it the first time. And you continue to not save and, you know, make room for these expenses, they will feel like they're getting taken advantage of, because it's like you don't have a savings, you don't plan ahead, and it's always just up to me. Imagine then something hits the relationship, a big life event hits both of you, and none of you have savings. That's a very big financial stressor. So it can go either way. So we want to encourage people to please start saving as an individual, yes, but also have a game plan to say, how do we save as a couple or a unit or a sibling group or whatever kind of relationship, so that life is a little bit easier should something happen. The third thing we do is we don't pay attention to detail, right? So when we are looking at our financials and we are, you know, sharing maybe a home or things like that, we don't recognize when the load is becoming too tough for the next person. We don't ask questions. One of the best examples I can make is, you know, the interest rates. Maybe you guys bought a house in 2020, you agreed the other partner is taking care of the bond. Have you sat down to think how that has affected the other person, going from about, what was it, Val? 8.25 or was it 7.25 at that time?
In 2020, it was 7.25%.
What is it now?
And now it's 11.75. So that, you know, that 4.5% increase in interest rates could be, you know, 3,000 Rand more on the bond. And depending on the bond size, it could be 5,000 Rand more on the bond. And having that conversation and saying, you know, sure, I am feeling, you know, a little bit stressed about this. Yeah.
It's important. I think we think about small things like who's paying for the dinner, who's paying for, but if we had that conversation, 4 years ago, and we agreed one partner is taking care of the bond, have you thought to have the conversation again and say, you know, how's it going? Are you still on track? Are you still coping? Or do we need to revisit? That's quite important. So pay attention to detail in that regard. And then this is one of the ways, well, this is, I think Val taught me this, right? Do you and your partner have different ways? So Tulile and Anonymous, this is one of the best ways to start a conversation in terms of different priorities, because we all have different ones. So the question to start it without creating defenses is, do you want to do a values exercise? And they will ask you, what does that mean? When we met, I had different values, I had different goals, but as we sit today, can we do like a top 5 of our values? And write it down. So each person will write down their values and then you compare. That will create conversation naturally. And I think as finances are part of your values, you put it on there and you take Val's approach to say, I feel like me, you don't make it about them. It's your values. Remember, that will highlight your priorities versus theirs. And that's when you start having the conversation, because the push and pull is not helpful in, a financial situation where we're working together. I'm saving for a deposit on a house. This one is kind of looking at Porsches, I'm going to go get a Porsche or whatever. But so we're pushing and pulling. So please have a conversation about financial priorities. It makes all the difference. So that's one of the biggest blunders, to not be on the same page. And that's how you get on the same page. That's how I think you started. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's great. And maybe, having that conversation, each having 5 post-it notes, and to ask, and perhaps the post-it notes will be similar and you've got similar values or similar goals. Yeah. And that's great. Then there's sort of common denominators to work on. It's a great exercise as an individual just to have a look at your own budget and to see what you're prioritizing, because if you're prioritizing every month paying for, let's say, insurance, or paying for savings, or putting money aside for savings, or paying for your child's education, then you can start to see your own values, your value of security. I don't want an accident. If something happens, I want to know I'm covered. I value my children's education. Education is one of my key values. And I'm saving. I'm paying myself first. That's a value. But if the first thing that you're sort of seeing on your bank statements or on your budget, you would see things like maybe Uber Eats, or I don't want to pick on Uber Eats, or perhaps restaurants and going out or shopping, then you want to ask yourself, well, am I valuing those things more than these important things? And it reminds me of that wonderful example of the mayonnaise jar. There's a jar that you try and fit a whole lot of golf balls in the jar. And if you put the golf balls into the jar first and then add little pebbles and sand, everything can fit in the jar. But if you add the pebbles and sand first and then try add the golf balls, trust me, it doesn't fit in. So you need to know what those golf balls or those priorities are. Charmaine asked an important question. How do you make financial priorities if one partner is not working? And that's an important question. Remember, maybe at that point, the priority is for the other partner to find a job, because it's impacting not only your family finances, but it's also impacting their sense of self-worth, or their ability to feel like they're contributing to the relationship. So that would then be a priority, to find a job, if that is the question that you're asking. And in terms of perhaps if you were used to a double income sort of budget, and now it's only a single income, what you really want to do is, the prioritization is even then more important. You want to prioritize the have-tos on your budget, the things that you have to pay versus the want to pay, and things that you potentially can streamline. So I'd love to ask the audience perhaps to think about right now, what are their financial priorities? What are your money priorities right now? I'd love you to just perhaps jot down some words using Menti polling, or you can take a little notepad and think about your own financial priorities. Really think about that. Maria, in terms of your life, what would you say are some of your key financial priorities?
School fees. I've got 2 children in primary school, so for sure. school fees, I think just the day-to-day expenses around making their life a lot more comfortable. And I think, you know, just the repayment of the bigger assets. I do realize, Val, in my planning or, you know, trying to give them a comfortable life, I feel like sometimes my money priority is not focused on the long term, because in as much as school fees is important to me, it goes two ways. Is it school fees for now, or is it school fees for varsity? Because then I should then technically be having school fees for now and like an education plan for varsity. So yeah, I'm always kind of, you know, trying to do the long term and the short term, but yeah, for now, school fees.
Okay, perfect. And I see some people are saying similar things: bond, education, debt.
Yeah.
Medical aid is a priority. So you want to know that you're covered medically. Investing is a priority, and we all have different priorities. And the key thing is we then need to ask ourselves, are our priorities aligned to our actions? So somebody's saying saving for rainy days. So if that's a priority for you, are you then actively saving every single month towards that rainy day fund? If funeral cover is important to you, are you paying that funeral policy every single month, for example? If getting out of debt is important to you, have you reached out to the financial coaching program and been given advice on how you can fast track your debt like Sam did and get out of the debt trap? Vitally important. But I wanted to just quickly touch on the 5 love languages and financial priorities. You know, I don't know whether any of you have read the book by Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. But basically he talks about we all have a different love language. And when a person is speaking your love language, you feel a sense of love. So your love language might be time, spending time with the person. It might be gifts. You feel loved when your partner or spouse buy you a gift. It could be positive affirmation. You feel love when they tell you how beautiful you are or what a great mom you are. Or love language is service. You feel loved when they do things for you, bring you a cup of coffee, fetch your dry cleaning, clean your car for you, or physical touch. Now, we all have a predominant or a core love language. And so the best way I can describe it to you is, you know, if your partner sends you flowers, but all you want is a hug or time to talk, then you're not going to feel a sense of love by the flowers. So really, I encourage you to think about that and really think about your priorities and think about whether you're talking the same language. Because if you're able to work together as a couple on your finances, then definitely you'll be able to make progress in your relationships as well as in your financial lives. So I see we've just got a few minutes to go. And really, for me, to wrap up, for me, it's all about communication. It's about having what I call a hot money conversation. So think about when you last had a money conversation and what happened. The hot stands for not hot as in fiery, honest, open, and two-way. And I know that Reality Wellness have got a talk on money conversations coming up later on in the year. I would really encourage you to do that. But so often I'm asked, how often should we have money conversations? Well, it's like some money conversations can happen daily. Some of them can happen weekly. Some of them happen monthly. And some of them happen biannually or annually. But the key thing is you've got to talk about money. And very often money, either culturally, but not only in South Africa, around the world, just like people say, don't talk about politics, religion, or sex, don't talk about money. And a lot of people feel the sense of anxiety talking about money or the M word, whether it is with friends, whether it is with family, whether it is with your siblings, whether it is acknowledging your debt issues. The key thing is, I would say, feel the fear and do it anyway. Perhaps test it on us. Have a money conversation with a financial coach, because that won't blow up into an argument with your partner or spouse. It's an opportunity for you to have a conversation with a coach to see what you can do differently. And just a reminder, Maria has popped that link to connect with a reality wellness coach. Click on the link below. So it's a different link to the mentee link, vitally important. And one of the things a coach will do is look at what are the things you should perhaps start doing in your financial life? What are the things you should stop doing? And what are the things you should continue doing? And so coaching inevitably starts out with your budget, because we need to get a good sense of your financial now, your income, your expenses, and where the money is going. And then from that, they would be able to really encourage you to think about what are your stop, starts, and continues. So the first step of financial coaching is looking at where are you now on your financial journey? What's the goal or target? By when? And then how do we get there? Let's date stamp it. How do we get there? How are we going to work towards reaching that goal? So I'd love to encourage you to take the conversation further and to really engage with your financial coach. And some of the sort of information that we're going to be using in coaching is the facts, the reality, your credit report, the reality, your income, your bank statements. Take a look at your budget, and then from this point, we're able to really look at what can you do now in order to improve your financial tomorrows. So from me, I would like to say a very big thank you for attending today's session. I really do want to say I am so sorry that we weren't able to start at 11 o'clock. I do hope that you found today's session on Rands, romance, and reality useful. I also want to remind you that when you reach out to the financial coaching program, we can also then send you a money move every single month to start to get you to soar on your journey in 2024. So hope you enjoyed today's session, and we would love your feedback, and either on Mentee or on your comments in terms of whether you found today's session was useful. Thank you so much, Maria. I really appreciate you being on the call today.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge, Val. Thank you to the colleagues for coming on and interacting with us. Thank you for your vulnerability, asking questions, sharing stories in the chat function. We appreciate it. We hope you guys have a fantastic day. Please remember to click on the link, and we'll be able to assist you in private outside of this session on a one-on-one session with your financial coach. Have a very beautiful Valentine's Day and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Valentine's. Don't forget to love yourself first. Take care.